Okay, here we go. Hi, y'all. I am very excited this afternoon here in Australia to speak with my friend Lucia, who I met in Newcastle last year. She is originally from Uruguay. She is here as a backpacker, currently working on a farm in northern New South Wales near Lismore. Is that right?
Yeah, near Lismore. One hour from Lismore, 1 hour from Byron.
Yes, yes.
That's his spot.
And it's an avocado farm, you just told me, which is really cool.
Yep. Pretty cool. We had a lot of guacamole, but I'm fine for avocados from a while.
That's really cool. I didn't realize that Australia did a lot of avocados, but of course they would. Like they get a lot of, like now I think about it.
Trust me, they do. Really
You pick them every day. Is that what are you picking them right now? Is that what you're doing?
No, well, we started with the picking season of the 1st of June until like last days of July. And then after that, we did like a little bit of wood chipper, pruning, skirting. We planted some new baby trees. It was like heaps of fun. Then we had to paint them for the time. That wasn't that fun, but that was okay. And now currently we are like doing some potting, fertilizing. And next week we're going to start to work in the new irrigation system in a different area of the farm that they want to start to plant some trees, so we are going to start with the irrigation system.
Cool.
Well, different tasks.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize. I guess there must be a winter harvest if you were harvesting in June. So now you're kind of wrapping up the harvesting season. So, interesting.
I'm getting ready for next year.
Yes, very cool. And so Lucia, Lucia, I'm sorry. Not Lucia, Lucia.
Everybody here, call me Lucy.
Lucia, you are a backpacker, and I'm interested in this because I first came to Australia as a backpacker as well. Australia, for anyone who's watching this who's not from Australia, they do a really cool thing here where they let people from all over the world, young people, 30 and under, come and work in hospitality or in cafes or hospitality cafes or in farms like what you're doing, and you get, I think, up to 3 years. Is that right? That you can
exactly. And it's up to 3 years.
Yeah, tell me a little bit.
I'm currently ended up my 2nd year of visa, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
And tell me a little bit more about that. Lucia, tell me a little bit more about, so you're originally from Uruguay, which I don't know a huge amount about, but that's obviously a South American country. Tell me about what brought you over to Australia. Yeah, tell me a little bit about what brought you to your journey here and what you're doing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm from Uruguay. That is a very, very small country in South America. It's actually the 2nd one smallest after Suriname. And yeah, I just came here, was always the idea to finish uni and to do a work and holiday experience, to see a little bit of the world. And especially for me, because of the career that I choose, I really needed to improve my English and to practice my English, because obviously it's not the same to learn in a classroom and to have to actually be living and talking with people that speak English all the time. So well, life happens in the middle, so I didn't make it straight after I finished uni, but I came here 2 years ago, and yeah, it's been an amazing experience. Even with COVID and everything, it's been amazing.
Yeah, and it's really cool. Currently, the Australian government doesn't have the best reputation for how they've treated backpackers, who they also call migrant workers, which is funny because when I was a backpacker, I never thought of myself as a migrant worker, but it's a really great opportunity. And I would encourage in normal non-COVID times, anyone to check out to see if they're under 30, if they're applicable, because you can work and travel and see Australia, and you make money. And there are some, and we'll talk more about kind of some of the problems that sometimes comes along with being a casual worker like you are, but for the most part, you've, and I remember seeing you, you worked in Newcastle, you worked on the beach, at a cafe along the beach, I think I saw you. Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I actually always had like an incredible experience like with the workplaces that I've been working for and like the people that I work for. I know and I hear about a lot of people that had like a few problems or they've been treated unfair or had like some taxes problems or something like that, but I never had that experience. I always been super lucky to get a job really easily and to being like lucky with the people that I had to work for.
Good. And like being on the books, I guess, like some people, I was reading a lot, one of the biggest.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and I will link to this, so COVID happened and all of a sudden there's a lot of backpackers in Australia. And well, before I get into that, tell me, so you were working in hospitality, you had plans to go to Darwin. Tell me about what 2020 was like and how the pandemic hit and what happened. Yeah.
Well, I was working in Newcastle. I did an incredible summer season working in two places, working in a restaurant, a Spanish restaurant, and in also like in this cafe close to the beach. And then my plans was like,
you want to say where you worked?
Oh yeah, for sure. Bocados, like they just reopened like less than a month ago because they had to shut the business down because of COVID, but they just reopened. So I'm really excited when I can get back to go and have a meal there. And also like the Newcastle kiosk in the Ocean Baths, in Newcastle Ocean Baths. Amazing, lovely people working there. So if you have to get a coffee, go please there. But yeah, it was like an amazing summer season, and I was expecting to host my mom that she was supposed to travel to visit me.
Yes, your mom was going to come. When was your mom was going to fly from Uruguay to Australia?
Yeah,
which is a big trip.
Something. It's a big trip. It's a big thing for us because like she's currently 65 years old. So she has like a few pre-existing conditions and it was like a big trip for her, big trip overseas. And we planned it for more than 6 months, I bet to say, and it was terrible. It was like emotionally and economically terrible when we had to cancel everything 2 weeks before she flight. That was like a tough kick, but like right after that, I was supposed to fly to Darwin in the middle of April to do some hospitality work to get my extension for my 3rd year. But well, coronavirus like exploded and I lost both of my jobs. All the flights were canceled, like the borders were closed, and I was like, okay, I'm here in Newcastle with nothing to do. I was without working for 6 weeks or 7 weeks, like almost 2 months. And I was like about to get crazy being in the house. I'm pretty lucky that I had a lovely housemate back in Newcastle that I consider like my own family, like my Aussie family. And she had 2 beautiful kids, and like just activities with the kids and go for a walk or like that kind of activities like keep me sane. But yeah, I got pretty lucky when a friend that I met like a year ago over Darwin, a girl from Canada, that we were happily talking for no reason on social medias, and she told me like she was coming to this job and she wanted to meet in Newcastle for a coffee, and I was like, oh great, it's so awesome that you got the job because I don't have like any jobs right now. She just did tell me if they need an extra hand, and I think that the next day she was like, oh, the girl that was supposed to come with me, she can make it because she got like a different plans now and she's not gonna come. Do you wanna come to the place? And in 4 days, literally 4 days, I packed everything that I had. I talked with my housemate. She was like super understanding. She was like, yes, you have to go, you have to do it. You can't be like here forever. And we ended up here with very little information because we weren't really sure where we heading to. I remember like we arrived like kind of in the night because it's a long drive from Newcastle and to here. It's like about 8 hours. And we was like, oh my God, where are we going? How is gonna be these people? But no, when we arrived, they were like lovely and amazing and super welcome.
And you hadn't done any farm work before that?
No, it was my very first time. Was very, very fun. I had to learn everything from zero, even like the terminology, like the expressions that they use,
right,
and like the vocabulary and a lot of stuff that they didn't have idea how to say it, or like names of different tools. Smoko,
right.
but are really one of my new favorite words.
What is that word? What is it?
Smoko is like the abbreviation that they use for smoke and coffee. That is the break that we normally do.
A smoko. A smoko.
Smoke.
Yes. Very Aussie, isn't it? That's
very.
A smoko, mate. Yes. So had you been in Newcastle for most of the time before this? Like, was Newcastle like your main base?
Yeah, I reckon it was. Yeah, I've been obviously like in Sydney and in Melbourne. I had some family living in Melbourne. I have my auntie and 2 cousins, a little second cousin that I really, really miss and I really, really want to visit. But
you can't.
I can't now.
Yeah.
No, because it's not the best spot to go now, and I don't know if I can make it if they're gonna let me in. But I think that I reckon that Newcastle is my home away from home.
Cool. Me too. But so for you, it was kind of like, well, there's no hospitality work in Newcastle at the moment. I need to get paid. My friend is going to this farm, and they will take other backpackers. And you were just like, I need money. So I'm.
I wanted. At that point, I was like, I had my savings, and I was very happy, like, because I wasn't struggling, but because I was expecting to receive my money. I had like an extra savings that I was about like to spend, like traveling around with her and showing her stuff and things to do. But I wasn't really struggling, but I probably used like half of my savings while I was like in these 2 months, almost 2 months without working.
Right. And
so
the interesting, and that's a great segue actually, Lucia, because one thing that I just read a few articles around this is that the Australian government has been very generous to citizens and permanent residents. They've been funding them, but very early on, when this pandemic hit, I believe there was a bit of a message to backpackers and workers that were not permanent residents, saying either you need to have the funding that you want to survive, or you need to go home. Right? Like,
that was like a little bit scary at the moment, because it was like, oh my God, they want me to leave. It's like, what is going on? I actually, to be honest, I thought about like going back home. But I checked for the prices of the flights, and we're like, I mean, I could afford it, but it would say like my whole savings, because it was like, even for just one way, like double of return or something like that. It was like crazy prices.
Yeah, how much was it for just like a one-way flight to Uruguay? I mean, that's like as far as you can go, right? Like
So at the moment, just one way was around $2,000, even more. Like depending if you wanted to choose, like certain hours or whatever. And it wasn't like actually the better flights, because they had like 2 stops. Like we normally have 2 stops, but a lot of hours. Normally it's a flight of 24, 26 hours, and it was like 36 hours. So it's crazy.
Right. And ideally, like you were enjoying your time working here, and you wanted to keep working. So to go home, to be able to come back was not even a guarantee.
Yeah, exactly, because I don't know, I think that even until now, like they're not letting people in, even if they have visas already. If they have like an active visa, I think that if you're not a resident or citizen, they are not letting you in. So I think that was the best decision to stay. Everything as well. So
and I guess in some ways it's great that you were able to find work in this farm. And are there a lot of backpackers there with you? Like, how many people? Tell me a little bit more about and what it's like at the moment, and then we'll keep going.
Yeah, well, actually backpackers, we were at the moment two German, a couple of Argentinians, Anna and me, so 6 backpackers. So that was all that they couldn't find, and they hired like a few people from around, and they have like maybe 5 people that they're like always like work here and been working here for more than 5 years. Some of them 10 years. Some of them since like the very first day was planned. They'll have like 5 people that is the permanent staff, and they normally hire backpackers. But I think that this year they couldn't hire like a lot, and I think that 2 people failed. So
that's the other interesting thing, is that I think farmers across Australia are having a bit of an issue because they rely on this type of work, but because backpackers you couldn't go anywhere but New South Wales. So backpackers usually would be able to kind of travel between states to go where the work is, and that's not an option, right?
Yeah, exactly. We weren't really sure until when we were like be able to stay here, because at the beginning we just came from the picking season, and we started like to look for jobs like maybe in Darwin for the mango season. There was like the next crop season that was coming, and we knew about it. But then we realized like how we're gonna get to Darwin. We can fly maybe, but then we have to do quarantine. But also like the farms are not in the city, so you actually really need a car. So I was like, that's not make sense for us to go over there.
That's another thing. So in Australia, I know that when you arrive from overseas, you must quarantine in a hotel for 2 weeks, and you have to pay $3,000 to do that. If you are traveling from New South Wales to Northern Territory, do you also have to quarantine for?
You also have to quarantine, but now you can quarantine like on your own place, on your own house or home or whatever, but you don't have to pay like the 2,000 or 3,000 that they were like expecting us to pay.
That's nice. So you don't have to pay that anymore. Right.
No, but no, hopefully like we're really happy that we are going to stay here until November, exactly for the same reason, because on November they have to do a process that is like injections on the trees to avoid like the roots like get sick. And that is something that you need to do like in a specific time, and you have like to start it and finish it in a specific time. So they need people to do that, and they offer us to stay here until November because they reckon that they're not going to get other backpackers to hire in November, so they want us like to stay here, and there's plenty of stuff to do and jobs to do, so we're really happy about that.
I think farmers, like I would like to probably talk to a farmer as well, because like they rely so much on this type of work, and they're not, and we need the farmers to feed us, so it's really interesting, like this kind of supply chain and how we're all affected by it in different kind of ways. But I reckon like now I have to apply for my new visa. That is like the this visa that they create, or actually like recreate for COVID. That is the 408. 4068.
Well, it's like my only option. 408. 408. It's actually like my only option right now, because I couldn't make my 6 months to get my 3rd year. That is what I would like to do. But I'm not super happy. I'm not super happy about that visa, because they created it in a way to help us backpackers to solve our kind of situation here in Australia. But I think that easiest way to do that would be like if they say, okay, all the visas that are active now, we granted them like another 6 months until this pandemic catastrophe it's over, or another year, or whatever they consider that was like enough to pass these like uncertain times. But instead of that was like the simple, easiest way to solve it, and like in my like point of view, they create this new visa stuff that it's only help them in a way, like maybe it's a little bit unfair to say that, but takes a lot of options from us. Like for example, I only can work in farms, I can work any more in hospitality. That is something like I also really like to do. I think that it's an incredible way like to improve your English, because you like have like little chats and chit chats with like the people while you're making their coffees or everything. So it's like I really enjoy doing that kind of jobs. So they take that away from me. And also like if with my actual visa, if I want to do like a small course, like a short course, like I was planning to do like something in relation with photography or something like that, that I was like kind into it, they take that away as well from us. And also like we can't travel, we just can't work, because it's not like the holidays part, it's just like you are here to work in a farm, and when you're not working anymore in a farm, you have to leave the country. So it's kind of like unfair in that way for me. Like I feel like it's not what I signed off for, but it's the only option that I have now if I want to stay. And it's like the better option for me to stay here for a little bit longer than come back home now.
That's so interesting. And I think they did a similar option for maybe backpackers with health, like working in the health field. So because I thought they would need
healthcare, childcare, food production, and farm, like agriculture.
Right. So you came here with the idea that you would work in hospitality, improve your English, and now it's basically like you have to work. If you want to extend your visa, your only option is you have to work in agriculture or you have to go home. Is that basically right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly right.
Right.
That I mean, like I am not gonna complain because I still have a job,
but just
it's not like
it's not what you signed up for, and that's got to be, like I mean, I understand that everyone has to we've got to deal with stuff that we weren't expecting to deal with, but it's just it doesn't seem fair as well. So it is frustrating. But because you're working in agriculture now, you will be able to stay for the next year. Is that right?
Yes. That's good, and it's like why I'm so happy. Like I got to find this job, and especially here in New South Wales, so I didn't have to move to another state. So I'm really happy, and also because like the job obviously is like physically demanding, but like not different that hospitality could be.
Sure.
And the people that I'm working with, they're super nice. It's like a family. You should talk with Barry. He's lovely old man. He's like a Vicky and Barry. They're the owners, and like one of their daughters is working here as well. And they take us for dinner or for breakfast, and we do stuff together over the weekends, and they're like always taking care of us in small things. So it's like I'm super grateful because I'm having like the best farm experience that I could ever imagine.
That's so good. And that's not always the case. Like I know, I've heard backpackers have really traumatic farm experiences sometimes. So I'm so happy that you're in a good place and you're learning new stuff. And it's hard work. Like you were saying, you basically Monday through Friday, you're working all day long outside in the sun, right? Like it's hot up there.
Well, now it's in the sun, but what I found is like, well, I never did farm before, not even back in my country. It's something like I didn't have like contact with, but I did grow up in a farm until I was 10. And it's something that obviously like a lot of years ago, but it's something like I found out is like here you have like all the implements that you need to do your job in the easiest possible way. So you have like all the tractors, gators, excavators, cherry pickers, all the tools like possible. Imagine like it's a shelf full of shit that you can use to do like your things better. So you have like all the tools that you need to do your job properly and in an easiest way for you. I think that back home, at least, it's a little bit more complicated, or it's like a little bit more hard for people that's working in farms. So I think that the quality of farm work here in Australia in comparison with the farm work back home or in South America in general is way much better.
Well, that's a great, Lucia, that's a great segue as well. So you're originally from Uruguay, which I know compared to a lot of Latin American countries is actually quite progressive. I think like marijuana is legal in Uruguay, and like they're very like
it's like the first things that everybody knows. We have a lot of other good stuff, but they always go to marijuana. Yeah. Marijuana is legal, like consumption and production
and
really
and a lot of Latin American countries are very Catholic, but I think like abortion is legal in Uruguay, and like
abortion is legal, and the equality marriage, like gay people can get married as well.
Yeah, so it's very different from like a lot of other places in that way, and I think they have like quite a high quality standard of living compared to other parts of like people make pretty good money, I think, and stuff like that. Would you say, like?
Well, I'm not sure really.
Maybe not. Maybe
it's
not.
Like the way to put it, but yeah, we have like good salaries, like in comparison with other countries from Latin America, but the cost of living is super expensive.
Okay.
In some ways, even expensive than here in Australia. So sometimes I talk with my mom, and it's like, what? How much do you pay for that? And it's like I can't really believe it, but that's the problem. The cost of living is so high that even like the salaries are good, they are not like sometimes to have like a really good living. Like we have like middle class, but it's not as big as it used to be. Even like we have a few progressive governments, like the last 15 years we have a progressive government that made like a lot of improvements in the equality for people, like to spread like the wellness in the economy, but it's still not enough. And now recently we had a change of government, so I think that we are going a little bit backwards from now on.
Really? Is it more conservative now?
More kind of conservative, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I wasn't there, but my mom, if you talk to my mom, she has a lot to say about it.
Okay, so tell me, comparatively speaking, I have talked to someone in Colombia, Brazil, and Mexico now. So I've talked to 3 Latin American countries. How do you feel Uruguay has handled things in terms of the pandemic?
Well, I think that the first thing is like people freak out, like totally freak out when COVID started, and that was actually helpful because even like the government had to say like, okay, well now we're going to stay at home, and they cancel all like the public stuff and everything. Like people voluntarily stay at home, and they still are at home. Like recently, maybe a month ago, like the kids went back to school. But I think that was like really helpful. People is really, really afraid about COVID. But the other thing that my mom was telling me today, because I talked to her this morning to, like have an idea about what is really going on now. If like I can follow the news and everything, she had like a different perspective than me, because she's actually there. And she told me that we have a very good public health system. That I knew it, but I wasn't really that aware of that. And she told me that when the pandemic attacked, the health system was totally really well prepared to face it, and was one of the few countries in Latin America that had that preparation beforehand. So that helped a lot.
Right. Because
so yeah,
I just read that it's like you've had fewer deaths in Uruguay than you've had in Australia, than we've had in Australia, at least if the testing is what it says it is. Do you think I've read there was like 45 deaths, just 45 deaths, like in the whole pandemic.
Yes.
So
we just have 45, and it's like, that's why sometimes when I talk with my friends or even like my mom, and they're like so freaking out, and I'm here, I'm not even wearing a mask to go to supermarket because, well, I'm like living like kind of like rural area. And it's like, but you have like 45 deaths. It's like, how you can be so afraid? Like here, like people, it's like dying every day. I don't know how many now, but it's like heaps in comparison. And yeah, I think that it's not the same. Like people is not that afraid. Probably they're like,
well, I think we have a lot of faith in the Australian government, despite its flaws, I guess. Like I think in Victoria, in the state of Victoria, I reckon everyone's wearing a mask, but there's like 6 cases here yesterday. Like there's just a lot fewer cases in New South Wales. So I don't think it's irresponsible. I think we're just we're making decisions based on the information that we have. But maybe in Uruguay, is there a lot of testing? Are people wearing masks a lot? Like, you know, do you?
Well, I reckon that they get the test like maybe a month ago, something like that. They had like a few like tests, like for the people that was working on the health system and in the front lines. But now I think that they are like bringing the test and for like everybody.
So you reckon
the thing that like the problem was like our health system, it's free, it's public. We have like the really nice and really well public health system, and also we have like an integrate like health system with private like clinics and everything that you have to pay like a little bit from your salary and the government pay the rest. But now they want like to charge people for the test, and that is becoming like a little bit controversial back home because the like people doesn't really understand what they want to charge them for the test.
They're charging people for COVID tests, even though so healthcare is free. There's a government-sponsored healthcare. Everyone has healthcare, but if you want to get tested, you have to pay.
And it's quite expensive. Like it's like maybe a little bit under $100 American. That if you translate it to our currency, it's a lot of money. It's heaps of money. In Uruguayan pesos. So quite funny. But another thing that they did that I think was very smart was like to close the borders with Brazil. We share like a big, Uruguay is very small, but one of our biggest borders we shared with Brazil, and they put militaries with the probably 3 tanks, like military tanks that we have. We don't have any more than that, but they put the militaries with the tank to cover like the border with Brazil because they have like a really bad problem over there with COVID. So they wanted to stop, so they put like the military to protect us from the COVID from Brazil. And I think that was like actions that they took like really quick, and maybe it's because of that, and because we are not like a big population. We are like a little bit over 3 million people, so it's not that hard to control that amount of people.
Very small.
Very small.
Yeah.
Pretty much know each other over there. But I think that that's also something that is helping a lot the government. They don't have that much people to control, like in Argentina or Brazil, that there's millions and millions of people to tell them what to do. And I think that they are doing what they've been told.
I think that's something that we miss a lot when we talk about like everyone's comparing the different countries, and I don't think that like the United States is blameless, but the United States has like way more people than Australia has. So by default, like trying to control something when there's the less people you have, the easier it is, I think. So, but that's
exactly. Yeah, it's difficult to compare.
That's good. That's good. And have there been any protests? Like I know there have been protests around the world for different things. Has Uruguay protested anything during the pandemic?
Well, yeah, they've been protesting, but nothing to do with coronavirus, or maybe like in a second hand having to do with coronavirus. They've been protesting because since of the 1st of March, we had a change in the government. We, like I told you, like we passed from a progressive kind of government to a very conservative one. And they are doing a lot of change in a lot of benefits, social benefits, and education, and like very like important areas for the country. And they are like trying to blame COVID for that kind of modifications they are doing. They said they're being enforced to do that kind of increasing taxes or taking money from education and taking money from the social benefits because of COVID. What we know that is not true, because they are not really spending money to trying to avoid COVID, because as I told you, we already had like a really well prepared public free health system. And also like we already had this social government, like they like help that the government like is giving to people that doesn't have like enough resource to maintain by themselves. So they didn't really have to put more money to COVID, and people are going like to the streets like to protest against that. But it's not actually against the COVID; it's actually against like the measures that the government is trying to
the new government
between them blaming COVID. Yeah.
Right. What a way to start a pandemic with a new government. Like that's got to be
beautiful. Actually, for them, like it's working actually really good, because everything that goes wrong is like, oh, it's because COVID, you know, like with this pandemic.
It's not our fault.
Yeah.
Right.
Another thing that my mom told me today, and it was really, really nice to hear, was like people in Uruguay, it's really well known in South America because of their like solidarity. So and in these kind of situations, it's when like you really see it. She told me like a long time ago, when we have in 2002 like a big economic crisis, they create like the people create something that is called like, the translation would be like popular pots. So it's like kind of like a movement, like the people, the neighbors came together and they find like a public gym or a social club, or I don't know, any public space that they can work in, and everybody brings like ingredients, and they go like to small shops or small supermarkets and they ask like for contributions, and they cook together like a meal to share, because sometimes like people doesn't have enough, like doesn't have all the ingredients on their money to buy all the ingredients to make like a soup or a stew. So she told me that they are like doing that they bring that back again. And in a lot of places people are doing that, and it's really good, because like some people that lost their jobs and they don't have like nothing else to eat, and it's like maybe their only meal a day.
Yeah, because I guess that is something. It sounds like the Uruguayan government is not necessarily funding, like at least citizens and residents of Australia get a bit of money from the Australian government. The same in the US. I know that some people are getting money. That is not happening in Uruguay. Like no financial benefit.
It's happening, but it's really small. Like it's not like the 100% of your salary. I think it's the 70%. But after a month or 2 months, they like start like to cutting down.
Right.
So yeah, it's actually not enough. But also like the prices of the like all the food, like electricity, water, and everything is like going up.
And the cost of living. Yeah.
The cost of living is increasing crazily in a crazy way. So it's not enough. And we like, it's super sad, but we have people in a very low conditions of living, people that sleeps in the street, and people that doesn't have nothing. And even like the government was trying to put money on them and make like social plans to contemplate that people. It's really hard sometimes to contemplate them all. So, and now with the pandemic, a lot of people that lost their jobs, it's the way that they found to, try to solve themselves and with
so
all the family.
That's great. And I mean, I think and that kind of leads me to my guess, and I've taken a lot of your time, Lucia, so I'm sorry, but that leads me, I guess, to the final question is have you been seeing some silver linings, some positive things? I'm so sorry that your whole year has been thrown off in your plans and that your mother couldn't come, but have you seen anything positive despite all this craziness?
Well, being in here, I think I saw the people that were surrounding me, trying to help me. When I was working in the kiosk, many people from the kiosk, when everything started, right before, my manager said, I'm sorry, but we can't afford to have you anymore, and we are cutting you and cutting all these other people. It's just that you. Right before that, they were super worried for me. It was Lucia, you're not getting help from the government. What you're gonna do? Because obviously we didn't have the normal amount of shift. We have maybe 2 shifts per week or something. And they were super worried. It was if you have to take food home, I can cook something for you. I can cook frozen meals for you. If you need some money, if you need help to do your grocery. And that was lovely, because was really, really nice for me at that moment, that feel I wasn't alone. The same with my housemate back in Newcastle, Michelle. She and the kids were not also a moral support and emotional support, trying to take me out to do activities and do fun cooking or whatever, and watch movies together and try not be that isolated, but also helping me reducing my rent, and I don't know, invite me to have dinner with them and cook together, so I didn't spend that much money. So yeah, I felt a lot of people that was trying to help in the smallest ways or the possible ways that they have, and that was something that I'm gonna treasure forever, because it's I think that's the experience, to be in a way, to have that kind of memories to treasure.
That's so special, and that's so awesome, and that makes me very proud that the Newcastle community was so supportive of you. And I think that's so great. And you need to talk about those types of stories as well, because there's so much sadness right now, and I'm so glad that you were looked after and cared for, and that you're now at a beautiful avocado farm where they're looking after you, and you have worked for a while, and it's not all perfect.
Yeah, and having new adventures. Yeah, different kind of adventure, but still an adventure. So I'm really happy.
And Lucia, you have a great attitude, and I think that's really powerful. Despite it all, I was able to, I've been very lucky. I've been able to keep my work going. I remember what it was like being a backpacker, and you feel very unstable at the best of times, So
I know.
It's not the same. You're in a time of transition as a backpacker, no matter what. So the fact that you've been able to persevere is really, really beautiful and lovely. So I think, thank you so much for those answers. It's been really interesting and insightful.
Thank you.
So, yeah, it's really good. Thank you.